Matt, that good to see you again. Does everybody have paper? If not, I also have some paper I'll hand out, but and you can write on the back. Has anybody done a transaction yet? Cade, how long have you been licensed?
Almost 3 months. Next week will be 3 months.
Nice. And you did a buyer, seller?
Yeah, I hope the buyer.
Awesome. Okay, well, you got to give us all your insights today because we're doing win the buyer. Will you hand Cade the microphone? Do you guys all know each other?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us what happened. Who's your buyer? How'd you get them?
So when I first got on, I just felt like that it would be best to reach out to my SOI, let everybody know, especially in my A circle, that I was involved. Everybody in my A circle I actually reached out to even before I got licensed, as far as, just like at family parties and things like that, or with friends, and they were aware that I was getting it done. So right around the time, about maybe a week or two after I'd gotten licensed, my aunt and uncle were planning on moving back to Utah from Mesquite. They were like, "Hey, did you end up getting your license?" And I was like, "Yeah, just a few weeks ago." They're like, "Okay, well, we're planning on moving back. So if you want to help us," and it's like, "Well, of course I want to help you." So yeah, the process went actually really fast. We only did one showing. They weren't picky, that helped a lot. They were ready to go, and they weren't being very, they just wanted to get into a house. They were going to be homeless, living with my cousin. So yeah, did one showing.
Tell us about their criteria and like what, like they just wanted a house, but
yeah,
did they want anything specific in it?
Well, it's only them two. There's nobody else. They're both retired. So they didn't need a lot of house.
Yeah.
They didn't need anything that was going to be too much for them. And they had a really good down payment because of the house that they were selling in Mesquite. So that helped a lot with, getting them into something that was pretty decent. It was 605 was the selling price that we got them into. So yeah, just an American Fork, just a house out there.
When did you close on it?
We closed April 22nd, so a little over a month ago. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody else coming up?
Yeah. So right now I'm helping another aunt. She inherited a trailer home, and I'm helping her with that.
Cool.
So, yep.
Exciting. Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
What about either of you? Just a few potentials. Awesome. Same kind of thing. Well, I mean, keep it up. Let me see if I can figure this thing out. Do I have to click it? No. Now it's going all over town.
Okay, so okay, now try going back on that.
Where's the sensor?
You can just point straight at it.
Okay.
So it's just the mouse has to be.
Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you, Molly. Zoom, can you see? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yeah, I can see. Thank you.
Is that Cash? Thanks, Cash.
This is Dave. I came a few minutes late.
Dave. Hi, Dave. Okay, who can give me kind of an overview of what an A buyer is? You mentioned A buyer also, Cade. Hi, welcome. What's your name? Cash. I haven't met you, but I think I saw you on Zoom, and then here you are. I'm Mason. I don't think we've met, but I've seen you. I saw you win an award. Congratulations. Right now we're talking about A buyers. Cash, what's an A buyer? in quotation marks.
Somebody that is like, like similar to where you have your 8 plants, right? Is that correct?
Yes, but what is an A client?
Oh, like what is a buyer?
Like what's a I mean, like if we're qualifying them ABC, like what's an A client?
Somebody that's willing, able, ready.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions about what a willing, able, and ready client is? They don't have to be qualified yet, but they have to be willing to be qualified and like ready to move into the process. Okay. A buyers, and then we're going to go into getting the appointment, prepare the buyer consultation, conducting the buyer consultation, getting the signed buyer agreement, recaps, and ahas. And then also the daily success system, which that's the reason I had you pull out some paper. Let's write just 1 through 10. And as we go through the lesson today, whenever a name pops into your head for whatever reason about what we're talking about, or you just think of someone who you can reach out to, you can invite them to Keller Splash, you can call them on the phone and just see how they're doing, or somebody who like to you would be an A client if they were ready to sell a house, or if they're selling or buying. If they come into your head at all, write their name down, and then we're either going to call them later or you're going to call them later as part of your daily activities. Can everybody see? Is this in the way? Does anybody have any names that come to mind? You can start writing now. Okay. Tyson, will you read this out loud? We hand him the microphone.
The right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it.
Awesome. What does that mean to you?
Just like the way you look at it, I feel like, and the how you prepare for it.
If we're talking to somebody and they were like, oh yeah, we're looking to buy a house, but the market, the interest rates, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like listening to them and you're just like, oh yeah, good luck with your house search. Like, are you asking for the appointment? No. Don't go with Molly. Come on, Molly, help me be tech enabled.
Okay, so maybe we do this, instead of using that waxy thing, let's this will be easy.
Other direction.
So use your little arrows,
Okay.
and if you get stuck again, just click the screen.
Which
And then this one.
arrow takes me the other
You
direction?
can go back.
No, I need to go forward.
Okay, so the button right here,
Okay.
forward, back. Does everyone understand now? We're all on the same page here?
Wait, forward.
Forward.
Okay.
Let's say it together. Forward. Okay. Let's get rid of this thing right
Okay.
here. I'm sorry. Okay, everything's fine.
Okay, here we go. What is an A buyer? This is what we kind of were talking about. Where are most of your A clients going to come from?
Or SOI.
Exactly. Or not, if you have some other form of lead generation, but SOI is a great way to capture some leads. We asked earlier, Cash, if anybody's done a transaction or had any clients or any buyers coming up. Have you had any clients that you've worked with yet?
I've got a couple buyers that I've signed a BVA with. We're going through getting them pre-approved, but I haven't closed any transactions yet.
Nice.
So
Nice. Well, those are the first steps, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, we're going to just keep going. Molly, can you hide the Zoom people? Yep, that's great. Did you do like a buyer consultation?
I did.
What did you find your clients? Will you use a microphone? Sorry, just got a zoomer.
Yeah, so I did do a buyer consultation. I found both of them actually through Facebook. So they, I just was posting about either an open house that I was doing
Cool.
or something like that. And they responded and said, hey, you know, how does actually buying a house in this market work? I'm like, well, I'd love to talk about it. So we set up a meeting and they came in the office and
That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you more about your experience as we go on.
Yeah.
So first they were a lead once they reached out to you, and then you need to set up the appointment, prepare for the buyer consultation, actually have the buyer consultation, and now you're moving from step 3 to step 4. You're kind of in the in between.
Yep.
Find a home, offer and negotiate the contract. We'll ask a little bit more about Cade's experience there, and I can tell you about some of my experiences. Contract to close, post-close systems. We might be having technical difficulties the whole time, so bear with me. Nope. Here we go. Keys to converting your A buyers. Respond right away to lead inquiries. How long did you take to respond to your Facebook people? Yeah. I mean, don't make people wait or they'll move on to an agent who can respond quicker. Like in any kind of market, like responding is super important. Get valid and complete contact information, save it to command and create an opportunity. If you don't get email and those kind of things up front, you're going to have to do it eventually anyway. DocuSign and pretty much anything is going to force you to have their contact information. Determine their motivation to buy so you can speak to it, set an appointment time and date for as soon as possible. Did you meet with your clients here?
yeah.
You like kind of answered the questions on Facebook and then what?
Yeah. So I actually don't know if I really answered a question from Facebook. I said, yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about it.
Awesome.
When can you guys come by my office? I've got a buyer's 101 presentation I'd like to talk to you about, and we can go over what to expect and how all of it works. So
Great. Well, I'm going to ask you more about your presentation also. Does anyone else have a presentation that they've kind of worked up or ripped off someone else or? Cool. Do you all have a copy of it?
it's probably the same one that I used.
Cool. Well, I am going to share with you, like Riley's is probably way better than mine, but I have like a little thing that I send out to like potential clients. And when I say potential clients, people I'm going to meet with. So here's a copy of a BBA, my preliminary buyer questionnaire, and we'll get deeper into this also, but and then a buyer 101 as well. Just like, you know, cheesy questions to get to know somebody or just icebreaker questions. And sometimes we brush over it. Sometimes we'll talk about it. Like people just like, I want to know about my clients' lives also, right? Okay, we're gonna before we like get into like a presentation or anything, There's a couple ways to ask for an appointment. Let's go over a few of them. Well, we're going to go over all 7. We're going to kind of brush through them. Show the benefit, take back close, negative, positive close, give them what they're looking for, trial close, assumptive close, and then tie downs. If I can figure out this freaking thing. Here we go. Nope. Molly. She's gone. And I am not a great Apple user. Top right corner, slideshow. Buyer objections to appointments. May have skipped the tie downs or the different types of things. Here we go. Well, we're moving right along. Buyer objections to appointments. Have any of you had a buyer object to an appointment yet? Tell us about what happened. We're just going to keep hearing from you, Cash. How long have you been licensed?
3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I think just about every time you set an appointment, there's always some sort of objection, whether it's a really soft objection or a hard, right?
Did these Facebook people give you any pushback, or
They didn't want to come to the office.
they didn't want to come into the office?
No.
Did they want you to come meet them, or just like,
They
can we do a phone call? What was
Yeah,
the
phone call.
experience?
yeah, they wanted us to do a
They're
phone
like,
call
let's
and just
keep
like,
it a little less personal. We don't want to like feel obligated.
yep.
What
So
what worries do you guys have, like, or if any, like asking a buyer to come meet with you, or share with me what's in your head?
Hey, this is Dave.
Hi,
I'm not feeling great, so my voice is kind of gone. One big concern, obviously, like with interest rates rising and home prices rising, lots of guys I work with who would typically make a reasonable income to purchase a property, 4 or 5 years ago, they were in an okay position. But like all the guys I work with now can barely afford like the slummiest parts of, West Valley or Ogden. And like, so lots of people are just wanting to wait it out. So it's like, what can I do to really help them other than, hey, tell them, hey, try to make more money? Or what are some options for them? How long should they wait? I'm not really sure what direction to go with that type of thing in general, since the majority of the populace can't really afford the average house right now.
Yeah. What do you tell them? Like, give me a specific example of an objection, and then what you've told them or what you're like kind of hung up on.
Yeah, and so what I've said in the past few months is like, hey, yeah, interest rates are rising, but the outlook is that they're going to continue to rise. So the longer you wait, the less buying power you really will have. So it gives them a little bit more kick in the butt to start looking now rather than waiting. But at the end of the day, if they don't qualify for the house that they want, they will just have to wait till home prices eventually go down or level out or interest rates fall.
Yeah. And do you own a house, Dave?
Yeah, I do.
Is it your first house?
This is my second house.
Was your first house your dream home, like everything you wanted and more?
No, not quite. It was good, but it wasn't my dream home.
Yeah. Yeah. And another example you can give, like most people are not going to buy their dream home on the first go, even if it's a great house and has a lot of like checks a lot of boxes. Like a lot of the times I just explain that to my clients, like this is setting you up for the future so that in 2 or 3 other houses, it's checking all the boxes. It's everything you want. It's great. And then you can also give the example of the past few years of appreciation, like how much people have made. Some people are selling houses for hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands. We moved into a townhome in February 21st, and now it's worth $60,000 more than when we moved in. Yesterday, like a listing was posted for new construction. So you can kind of help people see, like, if you wait to buy, you're going to buy $60,000 more for the same product. Or, you know, why not live in a condo for 2 years or whatever, and then you can sell it, make some money, and then be that much closer to getting what you want. But if you wait, prices are going to go up, interest rates are going to go up, and the interest rates are temporary, right? Like maybe the interest rate that they go in with now is really high and terrible and annoying, and the prices have been driven up on homes, but it's going to be a temporary interest rate, even if they have to wait 5 years for the interest rates to drop enough to like slice off $300 of their mortgage. Like that's a possibility that happened to a lot of people I know in early 2020, 2021. Does that help at all? I don't know if
Yeah, it does. I think like the
it's a
main
little different
always
perspective.
stick to like try to get people to buy or sell houses. And it kind of has to do with like the shift in the market. You have to adjust your strategy based on what the market's doing. So yeah, it does make sense.
And then again, like number 2 is empathize. Like, I totally understand your situation. That's really hard. Of course, you want the house you want. Would you consider a townhome instead of a single family home? Maybe we can find something with like a patio or a small backyard, or that has like ample amenities, and instead of like a single family home with a big backyard. And maybe you could have something with 3 bedrooms instead of 4. Maybe it has a loft instead of a basement. I don't know. But you can empathize with people. You can understand that it's hard. Like prices are way up. You probably bought, Dave, at a time where it was less expensive, but maybe you didn't. Maybe you know exactly what they're going through. And then, I mean, identifying the real issue of those kind of concerns is not terribly difficult. It's just expensive. What are some other solutions we could give to some of the objections that Dave brought up? Anybody? Catherine, thoughts?
I mean, I liked what you said about how like they're just going to keep on increasing, and then you're going to have to wait a long time before, if you want like prices and interest rates to go down. I like that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And the home prices may never go down, right? Like, I mean, the ebbs and flows. Maybe you're not going to have to offer 50,000 over with your clients, but the home prices have already risen up over the last 2 years. Now maybe you can offer asking price or a little bit under, but it's still like they've already risen. What are some other solutions we could offer? Like we could ask our clients if they're comfortable asking a cosigner, or, you know, gives them a little more buying power, just having someone to kind of back them up. That kind of thing. Urgent agreement. I'm not a high pressure agent where like I'm going to force my people to do whatever, like sign an agreement or buy a house. I try to come from a place of education and give them all the facts, give them my perspective, what I've learned from my experience, and then present all the information, and then allow them to make their own educated decision. So, I mean, I'm not going to force somebody to sign a BBA if they're not going to buy a house right now. But if I feel that I'm the best agent for them, then I will try to educate them and then urge them to sign with me rather than going to search for someone else. Does that make sense? Does that sound good to everyone? Oh no. Ahas, takeaways, anybody from that section? Cade, Tyson? We use the microphone, sorry.
So one thing that I often hear is that, you know, it's dependent on the market crashing, them buying. So they're almost waiting for it to happen
Ha ha ha.
as if it's like expected, you know? And one thing I've also noticed is that it's kind of hard to talk people out of that expectation. It seems like a lot of people don't even realize why it crashed in 08. And they're just under the impression that, oh, because houses are rising in price and
Interest rates are going up.
yeah,
and-
that means it's just going to pop. So that's one thing that I've kind of struggled in, not necessarily explaining, but just like getting them to fully understand that, you know, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, the markets shift all the time, but that doesn't mean that it's a bubble and it's going to pop. It's just changing a little bit because of the circumstances that we're in. The 08, 09 crash. If you haven't read or watched The Big Short, that help explains why it crashed, but I'm not going to suggest that you do because it may not be completely appropriate. But another thing I thought of, Dave, that kind of goes along with what you were saying is helping people alter their criteria, not only like you mentioned Ogden or West Valley. Like, I mean, you can kind of help people. Like, one thing I like to do is if people have like a search criteria is I'll plug it into the GPS. Like, I have a client who works at Adobe. So anytime we would look for a house that felt like it was far away from Adobe for him, I'd just plug it into the GPS, Adobe, and the house we were looking at, or the house that he felt like was too far away. And I would just send that distance to them. Like, it's 23 minutes away, or 17, 15, 10, whatever. And kind of just let him have the perspective. Like, I'm going into the office twice a week. It's 20 minutes away. Like, not the worst drive ever, or is the worst drive ever. But then it's like his decision. Or like, if you need you want to have a house and you spend most of your time at the house, like right now, Nephi's cheaper, Tooele's cheaper. Magna's might be cheaper. Like, there's places that are less expensive. There are parts of Ogden, parts of West Valley that are safe, but they're sometimes cheaper. Anyway, that was just one thought I had.
So another thought that I had is whoever your preferred lender is, a lot of times they can get pretty creative on trying to figure out how to help.
Yeah.
Because
great.
they want to close the deal just like you do. So
also builders sometimes have like a lender incentive. Like, we bought with DR Horton and they had a $5,000 closing cost incentive if you used their lender. So they paid $5,000 of our closing costs.
Wow.
And so $5,000 is $5,000, right? Like, and then I got to use 2% of my commission, like not towards the transaction, but after the fact, I got paid 2%. Because they only offer 2% BAC. Tyson, any takeaways, ahas?
I had one, but I totally
I totally blanked.
Totally blinked on it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you the next question then. Sorry, I'm just checking how we're doing on time. Buyer consultation.
I've got a question really quick.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to go back to the 7 close to appointment tactics?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry,
'Cause-
we kind of skipped over that because I'm having technical difficulties
Do you
here.
want to just borrow my paper here? So it's got all of
Sure.
them
Yeah.
outlined.
Or you can I'll just have you read them off.
Oh, okay. So the first one is show the benefits.
Yeah. Show the benefits. I want to say one of the examples for the show the benefits was if you use me, like the script example was something like, if you use me, like it can, I mean, you maybe not this phrasing exactly, but we can save you tons of time and find you a home quickly. Doesn't that sound good to you? Something like that. And then you use a tie down at the end of your sentence, right? Like, does that sound good to you? Or does that sound like a plan? Would you like to save time and
Got it.
and find a home quicker? Like that's one of the benefits of using me, right?
Or you can say like the benefit of you have the MLS and like agent friends
Yeah.
so you can get like all the
Excellent.
houses.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's another benefit, right? I'm a licensed agent. I can see all the houses that are there. Plus I have other tactics to help you XYZ.
Got it.
What's the next one? Catherine or Tyson, how about you read it off for us? Thanks for bringing us back there, Cash.
Which number were we at? Oh.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
like one number on.
Oh, number 2.
Okay. Take
There.
back close.
There we go.
Oh, it's on the screen now. Yeah, take back close.
Take back close. Shoot. I should have printed these slides off. The take back close. I'm trying to remember all of the examples that they gave. How do I? Here we go. Take back close. Puts a tempting offer in front of the buyer, then subtly creates a fear that they may not be able to get it. I've enjoyed talking with you. To be honest, I don't know whether I can help you or not. However, I'd be honored if we could find out. How about we meet tomorrow? Not my favorite tactic, but if that's something you would like, you can implement that tactic. Does anybody have any questions about the take back close? Like, I may not be able to help you, or I may not be the best fit for you, but I'd love to find out. I don't feel like that's the most positive, but
I think it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be where you build value and then you offer, you suggest that you might not be able to work with them. I don't necessarily, because we used to do that in cars. It's called a takeaway close.
sure.
You show somebody how, like something that's within their budget, but not what they want.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
okay, I see what you're saying.
and so you back off, and then that either makes them realize, okay, well, this is what I can afford and this is where I'm comfortable at,
Yeah.
or
I don't know if I can help you with that specific vehicle, but I'd love to help you with it. Or let's find something that's perfect for you. How
yeah.
about we go back to my desk and figure out? Or
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I don't,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
how
I
they
see what you're
worded
saying.
that
I
one.
see what you're saying. Negative, positive, close. That's a good way to talk about it too. What Dave mentioned, like, maybe we can find you something that's good for a good fit for you, but it may not be what you may not be able to afford exactly what you want, but there's still something we can find you that's a good fit for you.
Yeah, and if you aren't ready to move, then you can set on the appreciation.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Or the benefits of that there are of exactly. Okay. Negative positive close. Would you be offended if I asked if we could meet to go over all this in a little more detail? I'm free tomorrow. What time works for you? So always ask for the appointment, no matter what type of tactic you like to use. I always ask for the appointment. Like people can say no, and sometimes there's an objection behind the no. Sometimes they're just not ready. And then you can always say, do you mind if I follow up with you in however much time? Any questions on the negative positive close? Yeah, for sure. So it's maybe, here we go. So you offer a negative first. Would you be offended? And then if we go over this in a little more detail, so like adding some kind of positive at the end. Peter Merkel close. Peter Merkel knows what he's doing, so. Yeah. Way of taking into appointment to close. This is a way of backing into the appointment. Okay, give them what they're looking for. Quickly pique the buyer's interest by giving them what they're looking for, information on interest, comparable properties, etc. Yes, let's meet at my office and I can give you the specific details about that property and let you know about similar properties also for sale. What time works for you? Great, see you then. Trial close. Trial closes, test the waters first. You should find out whether you and the client genuinely agree. You can see how receiving a list of all the new homes on the market in your price range would help you in your home search. Can you see how receiving a list of all the new homes on the market in your price range would help you in your home search? Great, let's meet. And then you set the appointment. Any questions on trial close? Assumptive close. Assumptive closes assume the close and prevents them from saying no. Sorry, I am not great with this mouse. Can you see how oh gosh, I just read that one. Assumptive close. It sounds like we should meet. I'm available most times of this week. So what works best for you? Just like you just know they're going to meet with you no matter what. Tie downs. Tie downs are phrases that ask for confirmation, expressions. Wouldn't that be great? Or forming questions. Can't you? Isn't it? Wouldn't you? Ask for agreement and your customer into a pattern of saying yes. We'll save hours on your home search if we meet in the office first. Saving time is important to you, isn't it? Great, let's meet. If you want a great book on tie downs, Never Split the Difference is one of my favorites. Has anybody ever heard of that one? It's the former top FBI negotiator, and he just shares a bunch of his experiences and tactics on getting people to say yes. Never split the difference. Okay. Did that help? Cash, thanks for bringing us back there again.
Yes.
Catherine, questions, thoughts? Yeah. Is there one that you feel like works better for you, or a few that work better for you?
Yeah, I feel like since I'm like young, I can kind of show still like I have benefits. Like I can still bring the value even though I'm young, so like I show like
Yeah, will you grab the microphone? One thing I hear from a lot of newer agents is, I'm young, my SOI is really young. Like, what kind of benefits? Talk to me about some of the benefits that you can share, even though you may feel young, or you may feel that other people think you're young. What kind of benefits can you still present to people? You mentioned the MLS. That's an excellent one. You have a resource to offer
Mhm.
people. That's awesome.
yeah. And I'm also like part of a team that's like the biggest franchise in the world for real estate. So I have tons of experts behind me. I could say that, or I could like tie in that I have coaches and like I'll receive help on the transaction and I can go to people in the office to help me out.
Yeah. I would use strong wording like my assistant, like you have an assistant that actually like my transaction coordinator, which person who like does all the back end stuff. And like you can use Riley's numbers. My mentor does XYZ, had last week sold 4 houses and held 6 buyers or whatever, like Riley's is like a powerhouse agent. Use his numbers, your mentor does that for you. You have benefits. It doesn't matter if you're young, your experience is coming to fruition. So Cash.
Something that I did in that buyer presentation course, at the back of it, it has like our team, right? Your team. And so mine's just me, Riley, and Jen. And I really leverage Jen because I'm like, our transaction coordinator has
Yeah.
closed over 1,000 deals. Like we know what we're doing. And that was pretty solid. I got good feedback from that both times. So
Yeah. She rarely makes mistakes. She like really knows what she's doing. 1,000 transactions is how many forms, like you could even put it in perspective that way. It's just like gazillions or whatever. So I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? What kind of tactics do you feel like you use or would be beneficial for you? Cash, sounds like you've used some in the past for previous positions. And then I want to hear from both of you. So keeping your thoughts going.
yeah, in sales, I mean, typically, you feel out your client and figure out what's going to be best, but you also figure out what works for you. I'm really big into assumptive closes and trial closes.
Yeah.
Just because assumptive close, if you do it correctly, you come off very confident.
You don't seem like a jerk. You just,
yeah, you don't seem like a jerk, but you come off really confident and they're like, oh yeah, I want to work with you. And typically by the time you're doing an assumptive close, you've already shown your benefits and your values to why they should meet with you.
right.
So
But that's not the ultimate close.
Hmm.
You're just showing those things as you speak with the client.
Yeah. And then trial closes are awesome. I trial close my wife all the time because it makes marriage easy. So
Get what you need. Yeah, please, both of you.
Yeah. One way that Riley has put it before is that there are a lot of agents where it's like, yeah, they might be in the business for 30 years, 20 years, whatever it might be, but their mind is also set in those ways and they're not as updated on different things. They're very particular about the way that they go because it's really all they've ever known. So I think adding value in that you're fresh, new, you're way more in tune with just everything as far as, different patterns and different things. I think that that's one way to present it.
That's great.
I feel like a huge thing to help convince the buyer is like leverage Jen a lot.
Yeah.
Because like she literally like proofreads like all your documents and your contracts, make sure that they're all correct.
Probably sends it back to you
Yeah,
or
'cause,
tells
like-
you what's up if you didn't.
Yeah, even like someone in my neighborhood, like they hired a different brokerage to sell their house.
Uh-huh.
And like on the Repsy, they noticed that like one of the agents submitted like something that was wrong. Like they didn't add up the, the bottom on the first page that
Uh-huh.
we have to add. Yeah, they added it wrong. So
So just like, even if
Yeah.
it's kind of like feels smaller or whatever, this is a legal document. So
Yeah.
like if something's wrong, then you need an addendum and then your paperwork goes on and on and on. Catherine.
I was just gonna say, yeah, try to advertise the benefits that you have and like the resources you have. here.
Yeah. And at KW, you have a lot of resources, like ask other agents or, Riley, Jen, Dean, like there's a lot of seasons agents here also, like just to ask somebody, there's an answer to your question somewhere. Dave, do you have any ahas, takeaways, or thoughts about what closing techniques would work well for you?
Nothing in particular, just been listening to everyone's different strategies. So I work a full-time job. I've got like 250 people I work around. So like I'll try to casually bring things up about being an agent or the market or house prices so we can start a conversation. And like I've been referred to maybe 5 to 10 people who are, moderately interested in buying a house. And so I'll usually just go spark a conversation. And even without asking for an appointment or anything, I just start asking those leading questions like, oh, what are you looking for? What's the price range? And then it sort of naturally comes up that I'm an agent. And I've got a few people that I've got pre-qualified, got them started through Intralend at least.
Cool.
The big issue is that people aren't making enough money to get what they want. And so that kind of goes back to what I started saying, like, just the cost of everything is difficult. But as you said before, there's different strategies to tackle that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, in any conversation, I just have like a passion for real estate. So it's not even always that I'm trying to get a client. I just am interested in it. So I talk about it a lot. Before we move on, Cash, I don't know if you heard when we started, we wrote 1 through 10 on a sheet of paper, whether it's in your binder or whatever. And then we're just thinking about people who we can contact in your SOI, whether they're an A client or not. But just as we go through out here, you mentioned your wife. Maybe you can call your wife. You can use the, I forget which tactic it was, but you can use the trial close on her again.
Trial closes are really good if you want to stay out of trouble. Because you feel like, all right, is this going to get me in trouble or not? So
we're just thinking of people that we can write down who we can contact throughout the day. So if anybody has thought of anyone, now's a good time. We'll take a sec to just write down some names, people that you can reach out to, whether it's for like Keller Splash or you just want to call them, talk to them, whether they're a buyer or seller or not, you're just catching up or, part of making your phone calls.
was that book, Never Split the Difference, is that Chris Voss?
It is, I think it's Chris Voss. Yeah.
Right on the front that negotiate like your life depends on it.
Yep. Yep. It's awesome. I really enjoyed it. And it's super entertaining as well. I have a list of books I can share if anybody else has, yes, Voss, VOSS. If you guys are interested, I have a handful of books that I really enjoyed. Okay, confirm the appointment, buyer consultation preparation checklist. Confirm the appointment date and time. Big thing. First, you need to set it. After you've set it, you need to confirm it again. If you're meeting tomorrow, I like to set up a calendar invite and then I like to text them as well. And that's a good way to get emails, right? Like if you feel a little uncomfortable asking for information, what's the best contact email I can get for you? Confirm the appointment location. It's best to do it at the office. Cash, why is it good to do it at the office?
For me, it shows a level of professionalism.
Yeah. Tyson, why do you think it's good to do it at the office?
Yeah, technically safer.
It's safe. Yeah, that's great. Catherine, why would you think that doing it here at our office is a good idea?
Just because like we have resources if we need help or have questions that our clients need that we don't know.
Yeah. Cade, any ideas?
Yeah, I like the safety thing. And then also just, I think it gives them assurance that, they're not just saying you have all these resources and things behind you. I think that when they're actually in the building, they get an idea of just how things are going. You see all the different agents walking around.
Right. When we say we're $1 billion company, like seeing the building, walking in, it's like, this is cool. This feels like a very professional office. You can use the TV to search for homes. You have like a little fishbowl office where you're meeting, where other agents can see that you're doing work. You can show your client that this is a professional space. It's comfortable. You're quiet in the office. Cash, go ahead.
I think the other thing is it's a really good tell if how serious they are.
Yeah.
Because if they're willing to put in the time to come to the office, then you know that they're probably committed to buying a home. They're not gonna, if they just want to talk over the phone, they refuse to come into the office, then what's their engagement level?
Yeah. And it's okay if they have to do it over the phone or Zoom call. I had some clients in Ogden and it just didn't line up for us to, or they were in Logan at the time. They moved down to Ogden.
You ever go to them?
I have, and usually it's people I know, right? So the safety factor is less. Like it's people I would have a play date with my kids, with their kids. Like, I'm okay going to their house. And it's a location I'm probably comfortable with, that kind of thing. Like my wife's cousins, I've been to their house before. One thing I did before I started getting like a lot of business was I did a practice buyer consultation. And I just asked them like, hey, can I buy you? We bought them Beto's for dinner and we went over to their house. We just kind of hung out. And then we did like a practice buyer consultation where I like plugged in a drip on the MLS of like a search criteria. It was kind of made up because at the time they weren't ready to buy. But in 6 months, they called me and they were ready to amp the search criteria to a higher price and to buy a home. And that they were some of my buyers last year. And I did that like in my first 2 months or whatever. So that's another thing you can do also, like think of in your list of 10 people, think of people you can practice your buyer consultation with. Like send them your like buyer 101. You can like just like treat them like their clients. Like, hey, I'm trying to practice this. Do you mind if I come over to your house? I'll buy you dinner. Use it as a tax write-off. Thanks, Uncle Joe. And then just practice. Like, Catherine?
I was just gonna say for the safety thing, it would be a smart idea if you can't like meet in the office or you don't want to go to their home, you could meet in a public space.
Meet in a public
Mhm.
place. Excellent. Like a Starbucks has Wi-Fi or whatever, you can take them out to dinner or those kind of things. Ensure all decision makers attend. Tyson, why do you think it's important that all decision makers attend? Like if there's a husband and a wife and one of them feels like they're making the decisions, but they're both married to each other, why would it be important for both of them to meet with you? Or it could be any scenario, right? Doesn't have to be husband and wife, just decision maker.
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of the time when looking for a home, I feel like husband and wife can disagree on stuff. Like husband wants a big garage, but the wife would rather have a bigger kitchen and a smaller garage.
Right.
Just like you need to kind of be there to mediate. And if only one of them's there, then only one of them's going to get what they want. And then they probably won't be repeat business.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you win over the husband, but the wife is like, he didn't even want to meet with me or doesn't care what I think. So I don't really care for this guy, right?
Yeah.
Like you get kicked to the curb or whatever. Complete your buyer guide while you're with them. Prepare the meeting space. Oh, complete the buyer guide. Excuse me. Like, gonna do the buyer guide beforehand. Also, when I set the appointment, I like to, when I set the calendar invite or whatever, I like to send the preliminary buyer questionnaire as well as the my little how home buying works. Like 2 pages. It's just quick to the point, kind of explains how buying a house works. And it's a good jumping off point when you're meeting. Prepare the meeting space. If I am doing upstairs, they have those little like push boards upstairs that have like the different type of meetings that are going on throughout the week. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? We'll have like whoever's teaching Ignite on it, or like if Shoney's doing the training, that kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about? Right next to the stairs. Sometimes, especially if I'm doing it in the evening when no one's in the office, I'll grab one of those boards and I'll put it next to the office that we're like the fishbowl that we're going to be in. And just like, I'll just hop on Google Docs and print off a page that says, welcome Bryce and Esther were some of my buyer clients. And it's just kind of cheesy or whatever, you know, like have the water set out, ask them if they want a drink, or you can buy them a treat or whatever. Like I always have like candy at my desk, like set out a bowl of candy or whatever you want to do to prepare the meeting space. Review the lead sheet. If they've already given you some kind of criteria, like Cade's aunt and uncle or whatever, sounds like they gave you some info beforehand. Here's what we're looking for. Sometimes you can talk about it on your like phone call, setting up the appointment. Tell me what you're looking for so I can kind of do like a quick search when you get here. Or sometimes I'll try to get the preliminary buyer questionnaire back beforehand so that I kind of know what we're looking for. Yeah, so the BBA, I usually don't bring it up until the appointment, or you can bring it up, but I don't send it to them ahead of time. This is like agreeing to them either saying they want to buy a house, or like we had maybe not the very first touch, but the setting the appointment, right? Like when the appointment is set, there's a time, date, and place, and it's all confirmed. Then I send out the preliminary buyer questionnaire. I send out home buying 101 worksheet, and then the BBA, I either send it after through DocuSign, or we can sign it right there. Because a lot of people like feel more committed signing a piece of paper, or like it's more official or whatever. For whatever reason, signing a piece of paper is like a big deal to them. But I don't always have to do it through paper. Sometimes it's good though as a visual representation. Like I can fill in their names, or I'll have them fill in the names. I'll fill in my name and like the percentage agreement, the BAC, right? So that it's not like a surprise for anybody. Like under number 2. Do you guys want to go through my sheet at all? We'll kind of go through one that's on command here in a minute. But if you want, we can go through my buyer questionnaire. It's just kind of quick. And then if you also want, I stole this from command. I think I made some alterations to it. I put KW Westfield and then Mason Smyth Real Estate on the bottom to make it, to brand it to me, right? Yes, no, do you want to go over these?
I already read over it, but I think that they will.
Like to see if they're ready, willing, and able before you meet with them. So
Yeah, and then some of the questions also just help you know what is good for them and what their search criteria is. You get to know their personality a little bit. I'll just start. Tanner was he was my latest buyer. We're under contract on a new construction townhome in Saratoga Springs. And then I just kind of explain like, this will help me get to know you and give me a good idea of what your needs are while looking for a home. And then I just asked, like, what do you do for work? He works as a computer engineer. He's kind of a young guy, 25, makes great money. Awesome. What do you like to do when you aren't working? Tacos or pizza, Coke or Pepsi. I hate soda, blah, 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 whatever. Water's my only drink. No, I don't know. What's most important to you about owning your own home? So you get to kind of know, like, why do you want to own a house? He wants to build wealth. He wants to rent to roommates. He wants to live there for 2 years and then move on to his next property. If you find a home that meets your, when are you looking to make a move to a new home? He's not in a hurry. Right now, he lives with his sister in Vineyard. Before, he was living with roommates. Some people are in a hurry, like we need to move yesterday, or we want to move in 2 weeks, or whatever, like how quick do I need to act? And how much time do we have to find the perfect house? If you find a home that meets your needs, are you prepared to make an offer? Where would you prefer to live? Like what town? Where are you willing to live? Anywhere you don't want to live. Some people are like really like cut it off at Payson. I don't want to live in Payson or whatever town. Which types of homes are you searching for? Mobile home, condos, townhomes. One of these is supposed to say twin homes. Single family home. How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you need? Do you need your own yard, or is common area sufficient? What would you like in your home but don't need? What things are some must-haves that you can't live without? What questions do you have in your home buying process? When is the best time to contact you regarding the real estate matters? Like some people work during the day but don't care if you call them. They're only free on their lunch break and after 5. What's your preferred method of contact? Email, text, call, whatever. And most people are pretty flexible, but some people are really like, only contact me at this time through text message, ask if you can call me. Very particular. And then again, any questions on my, I mean, it's simple, right? And kind of like nothing elaborate. But there's a quote somebody shared in, I think it was a team meeting a couple of weeks ago, that like your mediocre presentation is better than someone's like non-presentation, right? Like if you took the time to do something and send them something, it's probably better than an agent who's just like, yeah, I'll meet with you. And then they leave it at that. You feel like a professional. You seem like you're on the ball. If you've prepared it and gone over it, and then you go over it when you meet them, you'll feel like more someone who's more prepared than somebody who doesn't do anything. So do something. It doesn't have to be a lot, but any questions or thoughts about my preliminary buyer questionnaire? Throw it in the garbage. No. Cade, what are you thinking?
When you do the tacos and pizza Coke test, you like follow up with like gifts of those sometimes?
Yeah, it like gives you a good,
That's kind of what I was thinking.
like, you can offer gift cards, or like you could even ask that, like Amazon or restaurant gift card,
Let's make it seem like it's just kind of silly,
like get to know you. Yeah.
But then
because then it's like an icebreaker, right? And they're like, oh, well, I don't really like tacos or pizza, but we love to go to the movies, or like they can then tell you about themselves. And then you're like, that's a great closing gift. Or, you can joke about it later or be like, oh, well, I have a Pepsi in my car, but no Coke for you. Sorry. I don't know, whatever. Like, it's just a good way to get to know your client a little bit better. If they have kids, you can add that in there. Like, do your kids like Tootsie Rolls or lollipops? You can just kind of joke around, but also like getting to know your client and their kids. Tyson, thoughts? What do you like about it? Sing my praises, Tyson.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good to ask questions about what they like, because I think that's really cool. Or like asking their favorite restaurant or whatever. Then like at closing, you just buy them that gift card. And that,
Sure.
I feel like that'll like almost guarantee your business with them again if you
Yeah.
just keep following up with them.
Yeah, for sure. And randomly you can just send them a gift card, right? Or like, yeah, birthdays. Like, I'm kind of generic and I'll usually just buy like a bunch of Crumble gift cards and just send them a Crumble gift card. But if you know specifically what they like, totally fine to send them like a Swig gift card or whatever. Doesn't really matter. I mean, and sometimes it's the thought that counts, right? But if you know what they like, then you can personalize the thought behind it. Catherine, any takeaways?
Just like the same thing with the icebreaker questions, it kind of gets them talking and like open up some for the real questions that come later. Like they get more comfortable with the situation.
Awesome. Cash, anything? Or are we ready to move on?
Yeah, I've got a question about it. So you said sometimes that you have them send it back to you before the meeting, sometimes you don't. I'm just curious, like, what's the criteria or what's your train of thought as far as that goes?
It's kind of before, like initially I would ask them to fill it out, but then I'd find that most people don't fill it out. Like they don't have a printer or they're just rushing over here. So sometimes I'll just ask them to like, take a look at this buyer questionnaire. This is what we're going to be going over when we meet so that I can get to know your needs and you a little better. And then, so I don't always ask them to fill it out. I used to ask them to fill it out, but now it's more take a look at it, get familiar with it. So you know what questions you're going to ask me. You know what you're going to tell me when you come.
Got it.
Does that help?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it does.
Sorry if I misled you.
No worries. I was just wondering how that all works.
Yeah,
So
like-
cool.
So oftentimes you feel like you're doing the questionnaire at the meeting.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's me just getting to know what their criteria is and getting to know them quickly. If I don't already know them, typically it's been my SOI though, that have been my buyers. And then we'll go over this here on the slideshows. So I'll save this for a minute, but if anybody has questions about it as we go, then feel free to ask. And then also, I was just going to say, one reason I printed this out is it's good for you to be familiar with it also. You don't have to memorize every single line, but if your buyers have questions and you don't really know the answer, you might kind of freeze. Excuse me. So I would suggest if we have a second at the end, maybe we'll go over some of it, but just go over it, highlight some of the areas, and then at any time before you have a buyer meeting, just go over it yourself. Maybe you can highlight some areas also that might be like peak questions for a buyer or that you feel are most important. But it's good to know the buyer broker agreement really well. Okay, top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition. needs analysis, pre-qualification or pre-approval, neighborhood information, home search, make an offer, negotiate to buy, vendor coordination, pre-close preparation, closing, and post-closing. One thing I want to bring up before I forget is number 7, vendor coordination. Sometimes, so what expenses would you assume or that you know of does the buyer have that aren't necessarily closing costs?
After contract or before?
During the purchase.
Home inspection.
Home inspection, that's a big one. That's a cost that your client's going to have that typically they're going to have to pay for out of pocket, right? They pay the vendor directly. So you want to make them aware of that. Another thing I was going to talk about during that before I forget this as well, is during your consultation with your client, definitions. One thing I like to bring up, like some negotiating tactics, but part of that is earnest money, right? Like over the past 2 years, hard earnest money has been like a huge tactic. Cash over appraisal, if that's a tactic that you need to use, that's something that your clients need to know about. Sometimes appraisal is a definition you need to use with your clients. Who can describe earnest money for me? Catherine, can you talk to me like I'm your client in the meeting and they don't know what earnest money is and you're trying to just teach them the definition?
So earnest money basically is money you put aside, and if anything goes wrong during the transaction, it's just a safe way to whoever gets hurt can have that money. Is that correct?
Everything you said is correct, but there's a little bit more to it. It's not just if it goes wrong, but after the due diligence deadline, which is typically 21 days into the transaction, or you and the buyer get to decide what the date is, but it's typically 21 days. That earnest money acts as kind of insurance money for the buyer, or excuse me, the seller. And it's typically around 1%. However, depending on the market, could be more, could be a little bit less, or whatever the buyer decides. It's a certain amount of money that's kind of insurance after the due diligence period for the seller. So if your client, so it's money that you have to pay 4 days after you go under contract. The buyer has to pay it. It sits here at the brokerage, and not a title, not with us. Dean made that very clear at team meeting 2 weeks ago. So it's like insurance money for them. It's money that goes towards the transaction of your buyer. As long as they close the transaction, the money just goes. It can be part of the down payment, closing costs, whatever. But if they don't and they back out after the due diligence period, then the seller gets to keep that money. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically, then the money is given to the sellers, but then if the buyers back out after the due diligence, then the sellers keep the money still?
Yes, that's correct. What happens if your client backs out before the due diligence period?
Can you explain that again?
I did not explain it. Do you know? Cash, do you know? Yeah, they get it back. So unless you do something specific with the earnest money, like it's very important that you describe to them that if they are offering hard earnest money upon acceptance, they don't get that money back. And that's one way to be very strategic about winning an offer, is you're offering the seller money, no matter what happens if they accept your offer, hard earnest money upon acceptance? It's the seller's money now. $10,000, $20,000.
Nowadays, the hard earnest money.
Say that again. Sorry.
I've heard a lot of people are expecting the earnest money to go hard nowadays. Is that what you've seen as well?
With the shift that's happening, it's little less common. They may be expecting it because over the last 2 years, that has kind of been the case. A lot of people didn't win an offer without it. Even if it was like a small amount of hard earnest money. I had some buyers that offered like $2,500 hard earnest money, which is not like outrageous, but yeah, a lot of people now kind of expect it. But if you are a listing agent, you need to be clear with your clients that they may not be receiving that. And, you know, if they do receive it, maybe that's a good choice, or that for those reasons, that could be a good option. Does that help answer your question? A lot of people might be expecting it, but now with the shifting market, with the way interest rates are going, with homes sitting on the market for a lot longer time, it's not necessarily, it has slowed down with the hard earnest money and with like offering way over appraisal and offering way over asking price.
Yeah, at the end of that makes sense. At the end of the day, it just depends on what the seller wants the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't uncommon to receive like double-digit amounts of offers, 10 plus offers on a listing not that long ago. But now people are receiving one offer in 2-week period and they're desperate to move out of state. So if you're getting one offer, that's a pretty solid offer. That's not a bad offer, right? Like doesn't have to have the hard earnest money, and the earnest money is going to go hard in 21 days. Or maybe you have tight deadlines. So your earnest money is going to go hard in 15 days or 16, 17, 18. Does that help answer your question? Like people are okay with tight deadlines rather than hard earnest money.
Yep, thank you.
At what different points, because I know there's different points in the contract, you could make it hard.
When you can make it hard whenever and whatever amount.
Because it typically goes hard after
Due diligence.
right?
That's correct.
So I guess any point up to that, you could make it hard, right? But
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to do like a super short inspection period, 3 or 5 days or whatever, and then have the earnest money go hard, you can do that. Because a lot of people, if it's an older, say it's like a pioneer home, 1920s or whatever, and you want to make sure that the plumbing, electrical, roof are all good and that it's structurally sound, right? Like maybe it's built on boulders and beams and doesn't have a foundation. Then, you know, you want to have an inspector go in and get in the crawl space and check all those things and make sure you're not buying a moldy, terrible house. You know, with the cast iron plumbing that's like caving in and whatever else.
with the inspections, do you use pillar to post?
I do not specifically, but that I have heard good things about pillar to post.
How fast can you typically get an inspection done?
My like preferred inspector is typically a next day kind of guy. And that's one reason that I use him, is because he's quick and pretty efficient.
Yeah.
We can talk about who I use after if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I would for sure.
I don't remember exactly how we got off on the tangent, but
Vendor coordination.
we were talking about vendor coordination and then we got on definitions. So earnest money, deadlines are really important. That's one reason it's so important to have the buyer broker, or excuse me, not the buyer broker, but to have the rep C memorize this as well. And again, not every line, but you need to know your deadlines, your typical deadline dates, that kind of thing. So having some definitions prepared for your client is good practice. Any questions about what we're talking about so far, or are you guys okay moving on?
Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I've had plenty of practice. So, and practice is great, right? Like if you need to just practice explaining definitions, you can Google some real estate definitions and then just go over, you guys can practice them together as if you're practicing with your clients. Practice that as a script. Okay, needs analysis. So again, whatever your client needs, you're going over that. And then sometimes, like Cash mentioned with his car position or car sales position, what you can afford and what you need is sometimes two different things, as we kind of talked about with Dave as well. Pre-qualification and pre-approval. Just give me your thoughts. Do you start showing clients homes before they're pre-approved or pre-qualified with a lender? Some agents do. Some agents won't send homes, and I typically don't, right? Like if I am going to send homes before they're pre-qualified, I preface, I'm just sending these to you so you can see what's out there. And I don't want you to get your hopes up about any price range. Like these are not homes that you can buy until you talk to this lender. And that's like one big piece of homework that I give them after we meet and have the buyer consultation. And sometimes during the meeting, I will connect them with my preferred lender or one of the preferred lenders or IntroLend or whoever you're going to use. Connect them with a lender, get their permission to connect them with the lender, ask if you can send the lender their contact info, and he can send them the pre-approval information right off the bat. You can give them an overview, but that's not your wheelhouse, right? So like asking them for their information is kind of big no-no. So you just can ask them what they can expect from the lender. You can even have a list of what the lender needs, right? And then you can pass that on to them. But
Asking them for like financial information is a no-no, or?
yeah, you don't need to know their credit score, right?
Yeah.
You can ask what their hopeful like purchase range is, right?
Yeah.
But you don't need to know what they make every year, that kind of thing. Like that's not really going to serve you. So, but asking their credit score and that kind of thing, personal information is probably best left undone.
Sure.
Yeah. What if they say that they want to buy cash?
They're going to need proof of funds. So that's fine. If they want to buy cash, more power to them. But ask them what that means, right? Because I had a listing this year, and so kitty corner from the backyard was the guy who wanted to buy the house. His in-laws lived basically in the backyard of my client. He caught wind of it because of some church event and called my clients. Hey, I got your number. Like, I want to buy your house, left a voicemail. They called me and they're like, what do we even do? And I'm like, send me his number. I'm your buffer. I'm your agent. Let me handle it. He told them in the voicemail, I have cash. I'm ready to buy their house. What he meant when he said he had cash was $30,000, $50,000. He was not prepared to buy their $600 or $765,000 home, right? Not with cash. Like, he had money to get a loan. He did not have cash to buy their house. And that's what I told my client on the phone too. Like, when he says he has cash, that doesn't mean he has money to buy the house. It means he can be prepared to have a loan to purchase the house, which is what ended up being the case, right? Like, so you want to verify with your client. You don't necessarily need to see their bank account information, but you need to know that, I mean, maybe it's not the worst thing to have them send you proof of funds that you you're going to need to send proof of funds or a pre-qualification letter to any seller, right? So in one form or another, they're going to have to send you proof that they have the money in their account. Does that answer your question? So if they want to buy a $350,000 house and have $100,000, they don't have cash to close. Or if they have it in NFTs and Bitcoin, they need to cash out before they can purchase the home in cash.
Yeah, I bet if you made unless you had an absurd amount of earnest money, I bet if you just wrote cash with like 0.5% earnest money and sent no proof of funds letter, that wouldn't be a very strong offer.
That's not a great offer, right? Like they're going to ask you for proof of funds. Oh, cash, that sounds great. Like, show me your money. Yeah. And if you have cash, why wouldn't you offer a good amount of earnest money? Kate, it looks like you had your hand up.
So there was kind of something they brought up, and I noticed it's not the questionnaire. Is there a reason that you don't ask like their range, where they want to buy as far as
Price range?
Yeah.
Probably just oversight, but it is something I talk about with them. Yeah, you definitely want to know what they're hoping. What's your hopeful price range? However, that can change drastically, right? And it can change day by day with interest rates. So some clients that maybe, like I had a client that wanted to buy $1 million plus, and they were kind of on the fence anyway, but with interest rates going up, they couldn't buy 1.2 anymore. Maybe they could buy 900, and they were never looking at a 900 house. Does that kind of answer your question? And in your buyer questionnaire, if you have one or want, like, if you want me to email you mine and you can just alter it, then I'm more than happy to do that. And you can ask, what's your hopeful price range?
Yeah, no, I think that's a super valid reason, actually. I just wanted to know why.
Yeah. Yeah. And, could be beneficial for me to include that. But also, if you don't know what type of home they want to buy, I mean, it is completely valid to add it on there. But you'll probably talk about it with a buyer anyway, right? Any other questions before we continue with this list? No. Neighborhood information. There's a lot of that on the MLS. Or if you know things, Trulia is a site I like to use that kind of talks about crime. You can refer them there. I don't know if I would use it a ton. Lyric, how are you? I like the haircut. Yeah, unbelievable. Can't believe you're late to my class. How many times do I get to teach anyway? Lyric offending me. Home search. I think, did we just talk about that? Make an offer. Again, you can talk about strategies to make your offer stand out. Just because you don't need hard earnest money to, win a purchase doesn't mean it's not okay, or like it will still make their offer stand out, even if in this market is maybe like less necessary, and doesn't have to be all of the earnest money, right? If they have a $10,000 earnest money, they can offer $2,000, $2,500, $1,000, whatever. You can do an appraisal gap, which means if the house only appraises for $400, that they'll pay $5,000 over, or they'll pay seller closing costs or whatever. That's another way you can make your offer stand out, is to offer to pay seller closing costs. That kind of thing. $5,000 though, that will pay for like moving truck and handful of other things. So that kind of other things that make your offer stand out. Go ahead, Cash, sorry.
Talking about seller closing costs, is agent commission part of seller's closing costs?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they always call it like their closing costs, but it is like it does come out of the seller's bottom line, right?
Yeah, but like, so if you were to write an offer that says buyer will pay seller's closing costs, does that incorporate their 6% commission?
I mean, it can. I mean, if you like, are you asking if you are offering money back from your commission, from your BAC, or are you,
I'm just wondering if it's incorporated. So like when a listing agent.
I mean, there's title closing costs as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, and maybe be specific if you're offering, you don't want to forfeit all of your commission, right? Like you can maybe offer some 0.25% of BAC back to seller or whatever.
No, I'm not talking about like I'm talking about my client if I'm representing the buyer.
Yeah.
And the buyer writes the offer that they're gonna pay seller's closing costs. Does that mean that the buyer is now paying the 6% from this like?
Not necessarily. And that's not really what I was referring to, but that is a good question. But they could pay a portion of the buyer agent costs, right? If that's how you want to like incorporate it. But usually there's like a buyer agent, like closing costs with title and or not a buyer agent, a buyer closing costs and a seller closing costs with title. So be specific, I suppose. You don't want to have to pay your own commission, or unless your client wants to, you don't want to force your client to pay your commission.
Yeah.
So good question.
Be like specific at least about the money, right? Like, oh, $5,000. So it's not necessarily
Right.
specific cost, but just $5,000.
Right. Or whatever, there's ways to be strategic about your offer that aren't just hard earnest money or just appraisal gap. If that makes sense, but good clarifying questions. Don't forfeit your commission. At least unintentionally. Negotiating to buy kind of goes along with making the offer. Also, earnest money, you need to decide how much. Your client needs to decide how much earnest money. We hand him the microphone. That's okay. We have a Zoomer.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
With earnest money, for people who, a lot of my buyers can't like put down a down payment or earnest money and have to use like a Utah government program, does the earnest money just get factored into their loan if they don't have it?
If they purchase the house, yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
If they don't purchase the house for whatever reason, whether it's financing or your dad loses a limb or, you have a work accident, whatever it is, if they can't complete the loan, then they have to pay that earnest money.
So like
out of pocket.
We can make an offer with earnest money, let's say like 1,500, for instance. And if the offer gets accepted and then we have to pull out, it's not going to go into the loan. That's going to come out of pocket.
If you back out after due diligence.
Yes.
So if they back out on the 22nd day and your due diligence is the 21st, unless you have a really like merciful seller, your client's going to have to pay for it.
Gotcha.
Whether they have the money or not.
Gotcha. That's what I was.
So they can go get a payday loan or whatever, like make it happen. Or I don't know what kind of mercifulness you have either, Lyric, but yeah. If your due diligence lapses or if they offered hard earnest money that they didn't have to pay or whatever, and you need to talk to the lender to make sure that the USDA is going to cover the earnest money and
right,
all those things. Because if it won't, they're going to need to use $1,500 from somewhere.
Gotcha.
And also after you go under contract, that earnest money has to come sit in the brokerage 4 days after you go under contract.
Right.
No later than 4 days.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
So it can be factored into a loan.
You need to check with the lender.
Gotcha.
It's not my That's not my wheelhouse.
Mason gives approval on it being factored into the loan.
Stamp of approval. No, I will not answer yes to that. You need to check with the lender.
So definite yes.
Definite yes. Go check with the lender. Pre-close preparations. There's a lot of things you can do pre-close, but you need to make sure that the loan is going to go through and title's prepared with whatever they need to do. There's no liens on the property, whatever else. You have closing docs. You have your plat map and everything else for through title. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? You, Dave? Closing. Try to attend all your closings and if you can't, you can send a representative like any other agent can go, like from your team or else, whatever else, you can ask someone to go on your behalf. Most of the time, my preferred lender goes as well. We like to be there for multiple reasons. Post closing, you can do a lyric. Did you do a closing gift? And when I say lyric, I'm looking at Cade.
Oh, I was like, mine people don't deserve it, but
Everyone deserves a little love.
Yeah, I just gave them like a kneaders basket, and then I did a handwritten note.
Yeah.
And my aunt and uncle are Raider fans, so I got them like a Raider sticker.
Cool. You can do different gifts for different people, but don't change your gift price based on purchase price of the home kind of thing, your commission, that kind of thing. Lyric, if your people don't deserve it, but other people do, still do it for the ones who don't. Do something, write them a note.
they're
give 'em
not
a,
good people.
Give them a gift card. Give them a dare sticker, says don't do drugs. Post closing, continue to follow up from the beginning. Ask for referrals. You want this to be an A++, 10+ positive experience. You can also ask. I used to include that on my buyer questionnaire, but I found most people didn't respond to it at all. Like, how can I make this an A++ experience? And what can I do to earn more business from you? And then I also found it to be a little forceful. But from the beginning, figure out how you can make this a super positive experience for your people. You want them to sing your praises, recommend you to everyone, even if you hate them, lyric. Because they might have friends or family who are good people. Any thoughts, questions on these 10 service areas? Mason Smyth? What exactly do you want to hear? My value proposition? I don't have one written out, even though I was challenged to do so. But when I'm talking, I want to be the best for my clients that I can also, right? And I'll tell them that. I'm not afraid to say I want this to be an excellent experience to you. I'll respond quickly to you. I will line you up with people that I trust, lenders, what are they called? Vendors, inspectors. I want you to feel taken care of. I'm not going to steer you in any direction about what kind of house you should buy or whatever else, but I want you to feel like you're well taken care of, like I'm here for you. I want to educate you, but I'm not going to force you to do anything. Like I mentioned to you guys that that's how I treat my clients. I won't force them into anything, but I want them to feel I'll educate you. I'll give you my perspective. I want you to feel well taken care of. I'll communicate quickly with you. I try to communicate clearly. I also tell them, I don't know if you'll understand this reference, but I'm like the police commissioner, you're the mayor, and I serve at your pleasure. You make the bottom lines. You're the client. I just want you to know what's out there and what's going to be good for you. And, bottom line is, Alexi, welcome. Oh, hi. And, I'm really here to assist you. Send me homes, contact me whenever you can. I'll try to respond quickly. We'll go look at whatever you need to see. Don't feel like you're taking up my time. This is my job. I'm here to do this. I'm here to be for you. I'm here to be here for you. This is really like why I'm here. And for you to come meet with me, just trust me with your time. That speaks volumes to me. There's bottom line, my value proposition. Is that what you were hoping for? Again, it's good for you to practice that. Write it down. What's your value proposition? Like we talked about Catherine specifically, you talked about like the benefits of using her. You should know why your clients should use you over someone else. And I don't like to compare. I don't like to say like, if you go to someone else, you won't get what you'll get with me because I'm the best or whatever, like I don't care to compare myself to another brokerage or another agent. I'll tell them what the benefits are of using me and my brokerage, right? Like I have unlimited resources. I have unlimited agents who have unlimited power. And then it's different if it's a listing, right? Like my network is huge though. Like you can also talk about the network. Your network here is 350 people, possibly plus. A huge amount of them have listings that are like something is bound to fit the criteria of your client. And if they don't have it, then someone here probably knows about it. Some of my clients have purchased, my first client this year purchased a condo from a client of another agent here off market because they had to sell it super quick. It was perfect for my client. So my network here is huge also. That's a huge value add, is that there's going to be someone who has something or knows of something that will most likely fit the criteria of my client. So there's another value add. But know your value adds and write them down. Buyer guide content. How are we doing on time? 10 minutes. Sorry. Buyer guide contents, welcome letter, timelines of buying process, home search process, how to access the KW app, introductions, value proposition, pledge of quality, bio, reasons to buy a home. So we've talked about this also, that most of my clients have been SOI or like referrals from SOI. So I have had some kind of introduction. But if you don't know your client, like Cash's clients came from Facebook, then you want to introduce yourself. And also when you first meet them face to face, you want to be warm, welcoming, confident, like just hold yourself like the professional you are. Reasons to buy a home, local market analysis with price ranges and trends, financial worksheet, credit check request, interest rate chart, items required for loan application. So again, you don't need to know everything that they have, but they need to know everything that they need to have. Items required for loan application, information on Keller Mortgage, Keller Covered, mistakes to avoid, buyer questionnaire. One thing I was going to mention with the mistakes to avoid is that as a buyer's agent, try to recommend that your clients, especially with new construction, don't visit the model home alone, because a lot of buyers will do their, or excuse me, a lot of builders will do their best to cut you out as a buyer's agent. So you need to attend the first meeting with them. So if you know they're looking for new construction, or even if you don't know that they're looking for new construction, you need to tell them, if you're ever going to a new construction open model home, that you need to be with them. And then also open houses, it's just good for you to attend if possible with them. If you can't, make sure they sign in with you as their agent. We're going to kind of speed through here. I took up way more time than we needed to, and we kind of bounced around. So apologies. So this is like, you guys talked about that you already have like a home buying 101, right? This is, next part is just going to be like building that out. Command buyer guide. So Command has one, a buyer guide, like a 101 that you can completely like personalize. The one that's on there is 30 something pages. I took 2 pages from it. I handed it out to all of you. Let's just go over it really quick, and then we'll kind of speed through this buyer guide table of content, or that's on Command. Lyric, do you want to just kind of read through this really quick? Yeah, just read the numbers. And then if we have time, we'll come back through each bullet point.
Number 1, partner with an agent. Number 2, get pre-approved for a loan. Number 3, find your new home. Number 4, make your offer, negotiate the terms. Number 5, under contract. Number 6, before you close. 7, closing day, what to bring. 8, closing day.
We kind of talked about some of these too on the last slide. Any questions anybody has on this 101? Thoughts, questions? It's good for your clients to just visually see it and have a reference point. Okay. The wish list, we kind of talked about this when we went over my preliminary buyer questionnaire. Just like things you have to have. Do you care about what year the home was built? Does it have to be move-in condition? Or are you willing to do some work? So these are things you can include if you want to do like a buyer questionnaire. If you don't want to do a buyer questionnaire, these are good questions to just ask in your meeting. Are there any specific features that you would add or make a list of for your next home? Will you require accessibility options? That's a good question. If they have a wheelchair or what special needs at all. Neighborhood insights. You can prepare things with neighborhood insights. How many homes are available? How many homes have sold? What's the average list price? What's the average sold price? Buyer guide. Value proposition. You can even like lay it out like this. You can tell them your stats. Like this year, I have 7 buyers that have either closed or sold, or excuse me, closed or are under contract. I have 3 under contract from a wide list of from condos to single family kind of thing. Preparing for the buyer consultation. We've kind of talked about all of that as well. One thing that the presentation recommends is having like some kind of positive affirmation before you go into your buyer meeting. Catherine, will you read this out loud for us? Mike's right behind you, and then we'll wrap it up with some ahas and then.
I am knowledgeable
Great.
and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they buy a home.
Make it your own, but that's a great affirmation. Like, has anybody seen Cool Runnings? No. Wow. Unbelievable, Molly. There's a positive affirmation in that movie. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it. But it's there's some swears in it in the affirmation. Yep, from way back. You guys are all too young. Except for, how old are you? Do you just look older because you have a big goatee?
Why do you want to know?
Just curious. Because you might be the one closest to my age. Everyone else, I probably out-age 10 years or more. Except for Molly. Except for she doesn't look good. That means that you and I are closest in age. I don't know about Cash. Cash, his age is ambiguous.
I'll be as old as you need me to be.
Age is just a number for cash.
Tell that to your clients. Okay. Coming back to this daily success system, 10 conversations. That's one. That's why I was having you write down the names. Did anybody write down 10 names? Did anybody write down any names? Nice. For people you to contact. So write them down, Lyric. 10 contacts added to your database, 10 handwritten notes, 10 5-1 social media engagements, enrichments, appointments, agreements, closing. So you need leads, turn the lead into an appointment, turn the appointment into a closing. All right, we need to wrap it up, but any ahas, takeaways from today? Did anybody appreciate today's presentation? Good, good. If you want any of my information, happy to provide it. Like if you have questions or if you want any of this in digital format, welcome to change it up however you like or throw it in the garbage. Any last words, suckers? No. I am. Oh, yeah. You want to talk about my inspector?
Yeah, your preferred. Yeah, so the inspector.
I have a list of preferred vendors I can send you, but I need to compile it into one location. If that helps. Bye, Zoom. Just like that. Give me a round of applause, everyone. And to your mentor, bow.
Thank you.
We didn't.